Hey, what's your problem? You have business problems? We have business solutions.
And I guarantee.
Well, maybe.
Right.
Life is a fight.
It is.
In business, every day is a fight.
Oh my gosh.
So hey, what's your problem?
Yes, thank you, John David Wells. As always, my big voice guy out of Dallas. Check him out at the Wells Report. His name is John David Wells, like I just said. This is the What's Your Problem podcast, where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals about the one thing, because it's always something that was told to me by a colleague in the car business. He said, man, it is always something. Turned my whole life around. Made me have a whole different, maybe it's a cynical way to look at life, but it's always something. Could be good or bad. This is a video and audio podcast. Check us out at whatsyourproblempodcast.com. And as you know, this year is the year of 10,000 average downloads per episode. That's what we're shooting for. If you like what we're doing, share it out. Tell people about it. Let people know about the podcast and let me know how I can make it better. I'm open to suggestion. I don't have all the answers. It's like a team. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com, and today, hailing all the way from Franklin, Tennessee, someone who I've been admiring from afar, even though it may sound like I'm a creeper now, is Mr. Michael Gomez with Gomez Photography and Westlight Studios. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Good to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, buddy. I met you several years ago with another colleague of ours. And you made an indelible impression. Like, this guy's just you just be a fun hang, you know?
I try.
And we're finally getting around to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's been 5 or 6 years, but at least we're getting around to it. So with that being said, we always kick things off with what I call the dad joke challenge. And here we go. There's the music. I got to figure out how to do that transition a lot better. The Dad Joke Challenge is brought to you by Trade Bank of Nashville with Mr. Ed Fox. He is the guy. If you've got leftover or stuff that's hanging around on the shelves, unused inventory, or services that you just, hey, maybe you're not as busy as you could be, turn it into trade dollars. Sometimes barter is smarter. Check him out. All the information's in the description. And Mr. Ed Fox is also an aficionado when it comes to dad jokes. He's actually got books out there called Grown-tastic Dad Jokes. So he came to me and said, hey, I want to sponsor that particular feature on your podcast, which is perfect because I don't have to come up with the jokes now. He actually does it for us. So, Michael, the Dad Joke Challenge goes like this. Ed will read the joke. If you or I laugh, we both lose a point, or one of us will lose a point. And the great thing about it is that we don't keep score. Fair enough?
No points.
It is completely pointless. Absolutely. All right, so here we go. Joke number 1. Let's go. Here's Ed.
Do you know why the rapper carries an umbrella? Faux drizzle.
I kind of get that one.
I got it.
Yeah. I don't know if you're feeling this. Here we go. Joke number 2.
Yeah.
Well, did you hear about the red ship and the blue ship that collided? Both crews were marooned.
That was nice and clean.
That was nice and clean. Here we go. Joke number 3.
Okay, see if you can get this one. What game would you play with a wombat? Wom.
I've never heard of the game Wom.
Now we have. I'm losing this, actually. I'm laughing too hard. Here we go. Joke number 4.
What do you get when you cross an elephant with a kangaroo?
I'm going to pause on that one. Let's try and guess. What do you think?
Oh, man.
Here we go.
Let's hear it.
Here we go.
Giant potholes all over Australia.
Or Africa.
He is like the Australian version of Stephen Wright, this guy.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Stephen Wright's great.
Final joke.
Did you hear about the 2 antennas that met on the roof, fell in love and got married?
This is going to be a wedding joke. You watch.
The ceremony wasn't much, but the reception was excellent.
That's right.
There you go.
Buttocks.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. You've just
Right.
experienced the Dad Joke Challenge. Not much of a challenge, but it works.
Yeah, no. I have a friend named David Bean who's a photographer, and he shoots out at Westlight. And he's got the best dad jokes. He's just got some good ones.
They're so just grown-tastic, but everyone loves them.
Yeah.
Everyone loves a good dad joke.
Comes out of nowhere, you know.
Have you seen the guys on TikTok that are sitting, they're like on a dock, and they both have giant cups of coffee, and that's all they do. It's just a video of one guy telling a dad joke and the next guy, and they're just completely deadpan, straight-faced.
What's TikTok?
TikTok,
I'm just kidding.
yeah. It's
I'm kidding. I'm so bad at social media. It's like I've probably watched 5 minutes of TikTok my whole life.
But you know, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, when I first met you, you made such an indelible impression. You'd probably be great on social.
You know, I'm working on it. I'm actually working on it. It's just one of those things that I've resisted for a while.
Right.
But realistically, I'm gonna see where it goes. I'm working with the David Molnar mentorship program, and I'm going live now with some of his students with a camera, and it's a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot of things, and I'm learning how to maybe be a little bit more in front of the camera and entertaining and talking about what I do, photography, and I get paid.
You got the bandwidth, you got the license to talk about it. Why not?
Right? And mentorship is probably my main thing.
Mentoring other photographers.
It's my real purpose in life is
Right.
just mentorship, is helping the next guy, like my mentor told me to do, just help the next guy when I thanked him for everything he did for me. And I've made a business out of it, I guess. I wouldn't say business out of mentoring. I've been able to be a working photographer for 31 years now, and
Right.
and try to drag everybody else along who wants to learn.
So you were just on the precipice of digital when you first got into it, right?
Oh no, I'd been shooting film, and
Really?
I was probably one of the first in Nashville to really embrace the digital side of it.
Really?
And I started with a Nikon Coolpix, but at the same time, I had a friend that had a camera, and he really didn't know like how to use it the proper way. But I had a cool kind of nerdy assistant named Andrew that could figure all that out, and we just played with that camera. And I'm like, oh, digital, yeah, let's do it. So I started with a 3.1 megapixel Canon.
Was that like the
Camera.
handheld consumer things that you would get?
You could get a consumer Coolpix,
Yeah.
and that kind of was some fun stuff. But then all of a sudden, I went into like a digital, a single lens reflex, but it was a DSLR,
Right.
and that was 3.1 megapixels, and I just kind of kept going.
Right.
All the other photographers, not sure yet. And
Yeah, I was going to ask,
Yeah,
was there a lot of resistance?
There was for a while. I mean, you know, film's not digital and digital's not film. I mean, you can baptize your digital in Photoshop, but you know, you've got to sort of give it that soul that film has, but it's just still, it's different.
Yeah.
But in today's society, everybody needs it yesterday, and digital kind of comes in handy for that, and it's gotten pretty fantastic.
Well, I mean,
And
with digital, you could see your results instantaneously.
yeah, and it's a whole new ball game of how you do things and how you composite things together, and exposures and tricks and all these things that you can do now so much faster. And if you know how to work, you know, all the tools in the end result, your client's going to be happy. But everybody likes that soul attached to film. That really, yeah. And
Are there still film guys out there that use film?
it's coming back.
Really?
It's
That's
coming
like
back.
vinyl, right?
Yeah.
Remember?
It's basically kind of the same parallel, really. It just runs along the same lines.
My kids are into vinyl.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's cool with that little scratches.
Yeah, she wanted a record player for Christmas, so we
Yeah.
got her one.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
it's
they're fun.
it's nuts. You never think that it would make a comeback, but you know, maybe 8 tracks next. I don't know.
My niece is totally into vinyl.
Isn't that
and
weird?
she listens to total Queen, classic rock, all this, and you know, I gave her a Police album for Christmas.
Oh, really?
She loved it. Yeah.
Which one?
What's it called? Zena Montagna or something like that.
Oh, really?
Orange
So-
one. So the funny thing is she already had it, and I didn't know that. But I ended up getting like an original copy, and she had a copy. So she's like, "Oh, this is the original one."
One of my first albums was Synchronicity,
Oh yeah, that
1983, 84.
Yeah. Mine was Rhinestone Cowboy. It was a single though.
That was late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah,
right?
Rhinestone Convoy.
Yeah, Convoy.
I wanted that for Christmas, a record player and art.
So your your daughter's into classic rock?
No, it's my brother's daughter.
You're okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's how old is she?
I think she's 12 now, maybe.
Classic rock, really?
Yeah, she's got a little old soul to her.
Good for her.
She's a cool girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like so 38 Special. You got some Led Zeppelin, Rush.
Yeah, Billy Joel.
Oh, okay.
She's Queen. She likes REM now.
Right.
I mean, which is
that's classic
I still
rock.
say it's classic. Yeah, REM is one of my favorites.
First radio station I worked for was classic rock. Today's rock, and it was I-95 rock.
And I listened to the radio or Sirius all the way out here, and I've got 70s on 7 going, and I've been just doing 70s on 7 for probably the last 2 weeks, and I love it. You know,
it makes an impression in those wonderful times of life. Being
the Carpenters,
a teen,
just really cool stuff.
Were you a musician at all? You to play anything?
I attempted to play guitar. I have a really nice flamenco guitar. My dad played guitar. He was a pediatrician, a doctor, and he gave me his 1963 Jose Ramirez guitar, which was from Spain. And I played it, but just after high school, I was working construction, and I ripped off the tip of my finger, tip of my hammer finger, ring finger. That kind of affected my playing a lot, and it still is very sensitive. The skin's, it's kind of, sorry, this is gross radio. But anyway, so I had to learn it, and I went from like, oh, I'm going to do this to I'm going to just play it for myself.
Yeah.
But I was playing, I guess, an hour before we got here, try to play just a little bit. I played for a little while, and I put it down.
Flamenco is a whole different animal.
Yeah. It is.
Are you lefty or righty?
I'm a righty.
Okay, so in your fret hand is where you had the
and so you can't hammer on with that finger or drag off and hammer on as much, and because the end of the finger is a little thinner, you're not hitting the string right all the time.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you got to either relearn it or continue to play and just get by with it, and I think adapt. And I'm not going to put the guitar down. I've got several guitars. I've got a mandolin, a banjo. Now I am learning the banjo.
Banjo, I wouldn't see. I guess there's not much of a stretch to go to because you're still using on all the picking fingers, like almost all of your fingers, right?
Yeah, but since it's a new instrument for me, really, I would say fairly new. I've had it for a while, but I just kind of really pick it up and play it more now. I'm learning just a little bit differently, and I just mostly pick around, really. Yeah. I just do it for my own enjoyment.
One of my good friend's father, he played guitar, unbeknownst to me at the time. He picked up a guitar and started playing flamenco, like salsa type guitar. And I'm like, oh, this is blowing my mind. And then I listened to one of my big influences is Van Halen early on. And I think it's called Spanish Fly. And Eddie plays flamenco style.
Yeah.
And it's like just when you thought he was that good, he takes it up a whole nother level and plays freaking flamenco.
Yeah.
A rock guy.
Oh, yeah. And I think they all probably dabble in a little bit of other little influences and stuff like that.
I guess so, yeah.
I tell you, what's his name? Tommy Emmanuel came in one time to the studio, and I said, and he was an hour early. And I said, hey, Tommy, I'm going to go to Chipotle and get something to eat. You want something? He said, oh, yeah, sure. And I said, hey, I got this guitar you might like. And he pulls it out. He goes, you need to sell this to me. He wanted to buy it. He played the guitar. So I've got some good juju on that guitar, and several other people played it.
You need to sell this to me.
You need to sell this to me. Everybody's wanted to buy this guitar. I mean, it's a great guitar.
Do you do the Jedi mind trick while he does it? You need to sell this to me.
He did. He tried.
Yeah.
And then he played it, with me in front of it, and I've never seen it being played like that ever before. It's pretty neat.
So you have the traits of definitely being a creative, something I can relate to.
That's all I am.
Yeah.
I mean.
So you were in the construction business.
Early high school job after high school kind of thing.
Yeah, but you weren't going to do that, right?
And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I think I was 19 at the time. I wasn't 20 until I was 24 that everything just hit me like, whoa.
Crazy.
this is what I want to do.
This a similar kind of path. I mean, I was in the trades probably from 18 till about 21, 22, mostly electrical, light, low voltage, that kind of thing. But I knew it could be a good career path, but I always felt like I had something different to do. And I didn't know what it was. I knew just maybe radio was always in the back of my head, but the only thing that kept me from pursuing it was because it didn't pay it as well. And I just kind of said, well, I'd rather do something I love and get paid okay for it than what I'm doing right now, which I can't stand.
And I used to say that about teaching.
Really?
I used to God, why would you want to be a teacher? The pay is terrible. I've been doing it for free for 28 years. And I'm like, oh, I've been teaching, I guess. Teaching to me is different from mentoring, I guess, but it is teaching.
Well, mentoring, you're definitely coming alongside somebody and
do what I do.
Thick and thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're watching you.
Yeah.
And just gleaning off of you as well. I've been doing that a lot lately with voiceover. All of a sudden, my voiceover coaching business has just exploded.
Well, you've got a great voice.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
I've been doing it long enough that I maybe can teach a thing or two. So
that's good. I hear people's voices sometimes, and I always say, you ever thought about voiceovers?
85% of it is how you use it.
Yeah.
I always tell people, well, Gilbert Gottfried did not have the best voice, but he knew how to use it, and he made a lot of money with it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's more about character, involved in all that. But.
And it's the person, it's the ham, similar to photography, so it's the person holding the instrument that knows how to use it that truly can bring it to life.
That's right. Yeah.
I just read a story recently where somebody did like this, seemingly high budget commercial with a $200 camera. Yeah. It just depends on whose hands it's in.
That's true.
Right?
Who's the voice of Darth Vader?
James Earl Jones.
Yeah, James Earl Jones. I was just on the way here today, and they were talking about his voice and how he didn't like his voice, and it's let him down sometimes. And I'm like,
what are you out of your mind?
How do you do that? Yeah. Everybody's blown away by that. It's like,
Ray.
Yeah.
The one constant throughout time has always been baseball. Remember him in Field of Dreams?
It's been a while since I've seen that.
Great movie.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah. It was. And I say that to myself. I still use that line, build it and they will come.
Yeah.
And just do it.
Ease his pain.
Get out there and do it.
Yeah.
And so that I've used that as inspiration. It's like, hey, get this studio going. They'll be here.
Yeah. Just spend the money and you'll find a way to make the money. If you're driven enough.
Yeah.
And hopefully in a good economy. James Earl Jones, funny story about him is that a lot of people don't realize he's got a stuttering problem. And the only way he could overcome it was reading copy.
Oh, wow.
So scripts and things of that nature, he would actually, I think, either have it off to the side so he can kind of glance at it, so he was actually reading. Otherwise, it would kind of creep in.
Yeah, see, I can't do the reading and talking at the same time. My brain doesn't work that way. The letters look backwards to me and upside down. It's called
Same thing with Marlon Brando.
Dyslexia going on.
Yeah. I guess in some of the scenes in The Godfather, you see Marlon Brando looking up at the ceiling.
Yeah.
He's actually reading.
That's his script. Wow. Yeah. I didn't know that. That's neat.
Yeah, he can call the shots back at that time. So.
Yeah, that's true.
So you get into, you kind of fall into the photography thing. I read a little bit of a bio. You were a bartender.
Yeah.
And the photography thing just kind of came out of nowhere, out of someone saying, hey, you need to be an actor.
Yeah, but I remember at one time I think I bought an old little camera at a garage sale, and I spent hours setting up shots and just playing around with it at the swimming pool. And I don't think I even developed the film, but I was always, when I went to Ireland and visited my uncles, they had some really cool Nikon cameras, and I would always, whether there was film in it or not, I was playing with the cameras and focusing, and I thought that was really neat. But yeah, I was bartending, and somebody said, you need to be an actor.
Yeah.
And I never thought really about acting. I thought it'd be fun, but if you're going to be an actor, I never did really school plays, maybe a few here and there, small lines. I was more behind the scenes kind of guy. And so he said, go get your headshots, and I didn't know where and how much. And he comes back, he goes, where's my headshot? I'm like, don't have it. He goes, I'm paying for you to get your headshots done. And I'm like, all right. So he says, let's go. So I went down into the studio, Don Putnam, where Third Man's Records is now.
Okay.
It was the studio. I walked in there and went, man, it's screw acting. It's going to be photography. This is it.
Right.
And I just walked out of there, and I borrowed a friend's camera, asked a friend, where he learned a little bit of photography. He said, go to Nashville Tech. So I went there, quit my bartending job, started getting a job at Dury's, the camera store, and ended up in the pro store, met a lot of professional photographers, and got the chance to be a photo assistant.
Did you work with Nick there? I can't remember his last name.
Nick Curry. No, he was not there at the time.
Yeah.
There was a guy named John there. He's no longer with him, I don't think. Yeah, and then there was one of the owners that worked in the pro store, and one of the owners was John Carnes, and Steve. And I ended up getting this job through a girl that worked at the same place that I bartended. She was a waitress, and she said she was an accountant. She said, I can get your job at Dury's.
Yeah.
And then I went from making okay money being a bartender to hardly anything at this part time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, just and so it was like, okay, I'll figure this out. Just kept going and going, and I got the chance to, when I started becoming a photo assistant. That's when I started doing okay again. I was like, okay, now we're making some money at the time, and then I started shooting at the same time as well. I was shooting, and I ended up in a studio that had a modeling agency in it, and I started testing with some of the models, and then the agency was like, we're going to start sending you. And then, of course, reputation started building, and friends, and after working with friends and family and all that sort of stuff, it just started building that portfolio up, and I just kind of snowballed and kept going. And then I met Slick Lawson.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Russ Harrington was the photographer who I worked with first. I was at this store one day at Dury's, and he goes, I said, what's it like to be on a real photo shoot? He goes, come by the studio tonight. He goes, we're shooting something tonight when you get off work. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So I showed up, and I started working with his assistant, Danny. And Danny was really nice, but he was about to be getting out of the assisting and into photography of his own. And I hung out at Russ's for about 3 months.
I'm going to stop you right there, because the question you asked him wasn't, hey, can I join you on your professional shoot? It was just born out of curiosity. And I don't know if that was a strategy on your end.
I don't know.
So what's it like?
What's it like to be on a real photo shoot?
Yeah.
And it could have been like a little secret strategy that I was, but I was just.
Did you anticipate getting invited?
No, but I tell you, when I worked at Dury's, the one thing I knew is that all these assistants were coming in and working for the photographers, and the way that I would reach those photographers were making sure that I gave them the best service that I could give them.
Right.
If something showed up at, that was going to that they needed to pick up, I offered to call them and say, I'll deliver it for you.
Right.
I just wanted to go to their studios.
Hey, just making a face to the name.
Yeah, and if I was in the studio and I said, hey, you need me to help clean up in here? I cleaned toilets, mirrors. I did whatever. I weeded gardens, cleaned cars. It's like, what do you need?
Yeah.
And
just to glean off them,
Yeah, just to show them that I had what it took, or that I was dedicated to learning this and wanted to be in this environment.
That was my entry in the radio.
Yeah.
Show up and just, hang around the production room.
Yeah, show up and then make yourself useful.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. I just hung around, and after the production director would go home, I'd file into his seat and just play with the equipment until I knew it backwards and forwards.
After a few months, I said, can I clean your cameras, and then I'm into his camera bag and cleaning. And Russ liked everything clean.
Yeah.
He likes a nice clean studio. So I knew that, and so I made myself valuable. And then he said, hey, Danny's gone. It's your turn. Yeah. And he hired me. And then Dean Dixon called him and said, hey, I'm looking for a new assistant. Who should I use? He goes, Gomez is good. Try him out. So Dean and Slick were friends. And after working with Dean for a little while, Slick called Dean and said, I need an assistant. He goes, you'll like Gomez.
Yeah.
So then I get called by Slick. Reba McEntire's house. Mm-hmm. And we're first time ever working with
I've never
her.
Heard of her at all.
Yeah, we're on the way out to her house, and excuse me, we're driving over these little roads and everything, and Slick's smoking a cigarette out of his window, and I look over and I see this barn with smoke coming all out of the barn, and I looked over at him. I said, Slick, that barn's on fire. I said, do we need to like call somebody? He's like, puffs his cigarette and goes, where are you from, boy? And I said, England. He goes, well, they're smoking tobacco in that bar. I said, oh, they still do that.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we ended up working at Reba's, and I told him my little story about, born in England, ended up here from Africa and Uganda after Idi Amin took over, and he goes, that's an interesting story. And then he would turn around, I'd have a lens ready for him, camera ready for him. He wanted to switch his lens out or try.
You're like a caddy.
I had everything. He turned around and he said, you keep this up, Gomez, and I'll get you a green card.
Dude,
I already had a green card, but he was a jokester. He always liked to joke around and poke fun a little bit, and I just went along with it. And
was that something that was taught to you though, like being an assistant, be at the ready, when they anticipate the needs? Yeah,
you have to be. You have to do everything basically except for push the button on the camera.
But did you know that inherently, or were you taught that?
It was both. I think it was a little bit of both. I just, when a photographer needs something, he needed it yesterday.
Yeah,
because you're catching a moment, and if you're catching a moment, you don't want the moment to die.
Right.
So get your gear together and get the shot, and then capture the moment. And if not, you have to kind of recreate it again.
Part of what we do here at J Squared is a lot of lighting and electrical work. And sometimes I have to strap on a tool belt and get up on a ladder and put some lights in. So taking off all of my experience from being an electrician at an early part of my life, I know what I'm doing when it comes to that kind of stuff. Yeah. And whenever I have somebody that's like an assistant, I tell them all the time, I said, being a great assistant is anticipating what I'm going to need next. Mm-hmm. So keeping your eye on, if I literally hand my hand down like this,
you should know what's going to go in it. You know what
tool I'm going to, Yeah. And I had this one person, I was literally just nice little rhythm. It's hand out and give me a pair of linemans and I'd be able to do my thing. She'd hand me a screwdriver. Oh,
that's exactly the way it is for being a photo assistant. Yep. I try to explain to the new assistants, it's like, you need to make me Doc Ock. I want to have arms that can stretch over that side of the studio, but you're that other arm on that extension, and you're reading my mind to go get that, or you already know that I need that next.
Right.
And after working with photographers, all sorts of different photographers, I mean, a good assistant's going to be able to walk onto any set and be able to do whatever.
Yeah.
Digital's changed that a little bit because you've got a digital tech now, but I think a good assistant's going to know everything other than pushing the button.
Do you think that the assistants these days, do people want to bypass that and go directly towards being a, quote, what they call the photographers that you have seen that label?
They do to a certain extent, and you can see that there's some certain things lacking in that, but at the same time, everybody's got a different path. I mean, I can't fault anybody for really trying to just get out there, especially if they haven't had the opportunity to really get in and learn from somebody. And then some people, assistants, some of them are trying to get all the knowledge they can and get paid, and they don't have a trust fund or something like that.
Yeah.
But I've had people that worked with me that have had plenty of money, and they've gone to become amazing assistants and have worked their butts off to just become fantastic assistants, and worked with some of the top photographers ever, and still work hard to become and learn. And I think just getting that experience is it's great. You're getting paid to get experience. You're getting paid to learn what other people's mistakes are. As a photo assistant, it's just a great way to learn. But everybody has a different path. YouTube has really helped. The internet's really helped that learning curve for a lot of people, but nothing can replace experience.
That's totally true.
So I still have people calling me all the time. I just want to be a shadow. I'm like, you know what? You're not going to be a shadow. If you're going to be there, you're going to work.
Yeah.
I want you to get your hands in. You're not going to make a mistake. It's not brain surgery. Let's just have fun and create.
Right.
And you'll be shy at first, but then you'll start to learn and you'll see. And you have people that catch on super fast and get it, and you have people that just don't get it.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be different for everybody.
I've had several conversations. Nick's been on the podcast. Mayor has been on the podcast. And we always eventually get to the sales component of the creative art, right? Whether it's voiceover, photography, videography, being a musician, what have you. A lot of people, they want to do it themselves. They want to bootstrap it. They want to learn it off of YouTube. But the most critical part that they don't learn is the fact that at the end of the day, they're still a business.
Yeah.
And a business thrives and survives on its air comes from cash, which cash comes from selling.
Yeah.
And Nick Curry, I've dealt with that guy for years, and that dude is a salesman.
He's a good salesman.
He's a great photographer, but he knows the sales game. So I would have to imagine you coming out of the bartending aspect of life. That's a sales gig.
Yeah.
It really is.
I was a good salesman at the camera store too.
I bet. I mean, just the natural understanding of like, hey, if I get in front of these guys and they know me, I can continue creating cash flow.
Yeah, the more you know about what you're selling and your photography and all that, you're able to sell that more as well.
Yeah. You know who Greg Glazer is? Does that ring a bell?
Does not.
He's the one of the heads up at GC Pro, Guitar Center Pro.
Okay.
And when I sold cars, I sold him 2 cars. He's shrewd, but he drives a hard bargain. But I buy all of my audio gear through him now. He's my guy. I've sent him so many people over the years. One of the best salespeople. He told me he was maybe 26, 27 years old when I met him, maybe younger. I was working at the Mercedes store up in Cool Springs, and he goes, he comes on the lot on a Saturday. Saturday is the busiest day of the week for a car guy like me. If you don't make a sale on a Saturday, you better reconsider what you're doing. So he shows up maybe 1 or 2 in the afternoon. We'd start the small talk. He tells me what he needs. He wants a brand new Benz. He's still trading in something else. He's getting something for his wife. And so, well, what do you do? He goes, I work at Guitar Center. And in my mind, I'm going, you got to be freaking kidding me. Really, dude? You want to buy a $50,000 car and you work at Guitar? I mean, I know guys who work at Guitar Center. They don't have the horsepower to buy a Benz. Barely a Honda. And he must have seen the reaction on my face. He looks at me, he goes, don't worry about it. Like, how old are you? He's like, I'm 25. I'm I run GC Pro. I don't work in the store. People work for me. I go, okay. He's like, turned out, he had the horsepower. And he told me, he says, all I did when I first started working there is wanted to double my income every year. And that's exactly what I've done.
Yeah, wow.
Like, good for you, buddy. Yeah. And he's one of the most influential salespeople there. I mean, to the point where if you tell people that, well, I deal with Greg, they call it being glazered. But a great guy.
I'll take one of everything.
Yeah. He's just amazing at what he does.
Yeah. Business is, doing what I love is just amazing, and I love it. I've been lucky enough to be good enough at it to have people want to throw money at. I've never worked for money. I mean, I know I'm trying to make a living. Yeah. But I like money to follow me rather than chase money. I want to chase art. I want to chase friendship. I want to chase mentorship. I chase what I want.
Money's the
byproduct.
Right.
And I mean, I've been lucky.
Yeah.
I've been really lucky.
It's probably not.
I'm so bad at accounting. I have to have somebody else do my accounting. It's just, I can't. It's just not how my mind works.
That's a good idea. I'm
gonna learn that quick about yourself.
I'm a pretty well balanced right brain, left brain kind of person.
Yeah.
I have to organize a lot in my head before I can bring on an assistant and I'm in desperate need of somebody here. But I can manage to a point. And I think that's that left brain, right brain balance. The scary thing is that you're right. When you start putting money ahead of the purpose, it typically punches you in the face over time.
I mean, money buys you freedom to help you do more with it, but at the same time, it's just money's one of those things that I was like, yeah, I know I need it, but and I've been lucky again to be able to go, here's my fee and get my rates up to where they were, but the whole industry's changed a lot, so. Yeah. Now it's like a Wild West out there, somebody
all over again.
Yeah, in just a weird way for fees and everybody taking advantage of situations.
Do you coach on that, on how to maintain and hold your rate?
I try to do my best, but at the same time, again, it's tricky to navigate it, and you've got to be able to figure it out. But you've got to know your worth so that you're not afraid to ask for it and say, "This is why you want to choose me."
Yeah,
and this is going to make all the difference.
Same thing in the voiceover world is happening. There's been a tremendous onslaught of people that have come out of the woodwork that want to get into voiceover, and to the what I call the elitists that are out there that get paid several hundred, if not thousands of dollars per project. That world still exists, but that slice of the pie is getting narrower and narrower. So that is one of the things that I help people, especially newbies, come to the table with, is that you got to get your sales game on. That's a big part of it. Well, everybody tells me I need to know what I'm worth. I said, but I'll tell you right now, your customer doesn't care what you think you're worth. You have to prove it to them.
Yes, that's
You have to be able to articulate it to them.
Yeah.
And make it make logical sense why you're the better option.
Yeah.
And, put the blinders on so nothing else is an option.
Yeah.
That's selling 101.
Yeah.
And that's what we dealt with in the car business with a relatively commoditized product. Voiceover is a commoditized industry at this point. Photographers, there's a dime a dozen photographers out there. I mean, people are calling themselves photographers with their iPhones.
And someone will take some great photos with that.
Sure they do.
You get to see it right away. But, at the same time, it's like, okay, well, how can you fail? But at the same time, there's a method to being successful at it and being consistent at it.
Yeah.
Constant and just nailing it every time and making feel that's one of the things why I like taking pictures of people, because I can make people feel generally comfortable in front of the camera, and that's an art in itself.
Right.
And if you can do that, then you're going to come away with great shots. Your client becomes a friend, and they're going to go, this is who you need to go to. Right. So a lot of mine is word of mouth, and then my images will speak for themselves. But I have not updated my website in probably 2 years, so that's about to change.
You and me both.
I've got to get. We're building Westlight's website right now, and a new one, and we're going to be doing Gomez photography, and then I've got my nonprofit Slick Lawson Foundation that we're also building. I've got a lot on my plate.
Yeah, it's
it's
and
kind of nuts.
As entrepreneurs, we look for more and more to be on our plate. It's a hole that never gets filled up.
Yeah, well, I guess it's and it's a balance, I guess, and you still have to figure out. I say it's a balance, but when you have a purpose, it's just get out of my way. I want to do my purpose,
and that's the thing is that having the purpose, and does it provide fulfillment?
Yeah,
I've had a teacher on in the past couple of weeks. She actually teaches band up at my son's school. And she talked about passion. I said, but at some point you got to pay the bills, and that was my experience. I had to get out of radio. I was kind of done with the radio at that point. And I wanted to do something that actually paid a lot better than what I was used to. Chased the money for a number of years. I went through a college education of sorts with the car business and got out of that and basically started doing my own thing with all the newfound skills that helped me do my new thing.
And the cool equipment. The equipment's changed so much. It's making it easier too.
I wouldn't be doing podcasting without this thing right here.
Yeah.
The Roadcaster. Rode endorsement.
There you go. Send them some money. Or free gear.
She mentioned how this passion and, the purpose aspect of it. And I said, well, the purpose is kind of being, in the teaching profession right now, is kind of being leaned on because they're not paying you guys that much. You guys are like what I went through in radio. And now look at the radio landscape. It's a wasteland because they didn't invest in the next generation talent. They just let it go to waste. Money was more important to the conglomerates that bought up all the radio stations. I said, same thing's happening in your profession, the teaching profession. You guys got to start getting paid better. I don't know how that happens. But she says, well, a lot of people just do it for passion. I said, well, eventually the passion runs out. And your fulfillment has to be enough out of that purpose and passion.
Yeah.
And that's the end result.
I think as a teacher, you get to see the results of some of your efforts to help these people and get to the next level, just help the next guy kind of thing. And we have a really cool video team called Tape Slate that young kids just out of high school really, and they did the 48-hour film festival. Now they just did the 54-hour film festival.
Really?
Out of 25 possible awards, they got nominated for 22, and they won 14.
Wow.
They did awesome.
Yeah.
And they spent a night at the studio during the 54-hour. They had all the gear that they could use. But they're smart guys, and they're really, really good at what they do. They're doing a 45-minute feature film. And it's just, when you have that kind of drive, it's like, I don't really have to teach them much. I just make whatever available.
Yeah.
And I'll give them some philosophy on some things and some ideas. But boy, it's like, get out of their way. They're going to do it.
Yeah.
And people who really, really, really want to learn and have that drive, they're going to do it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I hate reading, but when I signed up for Nashville State, my book was probably an inch thick on photography.
Yeah.
And I was done. We registered for class, and I got the book about a week early, and I was done with the book by the time class started.
How do you intake information typically? What's your preferred method?
I mean, I read because I have to sometimes, but it's not my preferred. I like YouTube.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I learn a lot from my interns.
You learn a lot from teaching.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets to put in there what they know.
Yeah.
And these young kids really know some great technology. One of our interns had saved 3 video shoots that we did because he just knew how to do something and just kind of like, here, do this and do this. And he's an intern, but he's very valuable.
It shows them how valuable they are, and it gives them a confidence boost.
Yeah. And you always have to point that out. You have to let them know when it's time to praise somebody, make it authentic and really show how that really made a big difference in what we were doing, and all the little things.
Yeah.
And it's great when you can encourage somebody to really just keep going. You're doing great. And at the same time, when it's time to criticize, you got to do it in a right way too, without damaging, making them want to quit.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that any entrepreneur can do, any creative, especially when times get tough, or as recently Ed Milet put a video up talking about when the fog rolls in and you can't see life as you were able to see it when everything was clear. Somebody asked me, if you had to go back to selling cars, what would you do differently? And I said, I would marinate my mind in good stuff. I would listen to good podcasts every single day, like I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't change much about that. But back when I was in the car business days, it wasn't, I didn't do that. I wasn't really much on training or listening to podcasts as I am now. But I think what a difference it would have made had I done that. Yeah. Because it was really easy to get down about things.
It's all about gratitude.
It really is. That's a huge part of it. With that being said, what do you marinate your mind in these days? What are you listening to? Who you're reading?
A lot of history.
Yeah, really.
And I just love that. So I'll go to bed listening to this, because if not, my mind's going to be talking. Right. I'd rather fall asleep listening to somebody else than my own mind, because then I'll never fall asleep. But, the good thing is I've been getting 7 hours at least of sleep a night with my little watch that tells me my sleep patterns now.
I don't really, I have never had problem getting sleep, so unfortunately.
Yeah, no,
it's getting up is the problem.
Oh, I wake up. I automatically wake up at like 4:30 every morning before my alarm goes off at 5:30.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm like, okay, am I going to sleep in, or what do I got to do today? I'm like, okay, no, get up.
First things first.
Get up.
What time are you going to bed coffee. Getting up at 4:30?
10.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, mostly 10. 10's where I want to be.
Yeah, that's about where I am.
I mean, every once in a while, I'll try to stay out a little later, but it's like, oh, man, I'm like, okay, unless I'm really having a lot of fun, just go to bed. Yeah. Get up early, because that's when the stuff really starts to get happening. Yeah. So in the book Pendulum, like, they talk about the cultural shifts. I always talk about it. And everybody, I see it like the world as it stands today, how everything seems to be so at odds. There's no denying that
there's something off, right?
Yeah, there's definitely something anticipation coming down the line, and
anxiety ridden or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I tell people, it's nothing we haven't been through before. I said, there's nothing new under the sun. Actually, the previous times that we've gone through this so far have been a lot worse than what we've experienced now. But every 80 years we go through this like clockwork.
And Rome went through the same stuff.
It did.
Great empires are brought down from the inside.
Yep.
People need to really know that.
It happens every single time.
Not to get political, because I really just am done with politics. But
and there's not, and I understand that as well.
Yeah.
I see it on social media, and you kind of want to take up arms and I got to. Well, who are you convincing? Nobody. Yeah. You're not changing any minds by getting into a comment war.
Yeah, I tried that. It didn't work.
No. All you're doing is they're going to form opinions about you, and then you're going to have shade thrown at you, and it's just not worth it.
I found out that my best approach right now is really, really trying to put myself in somebody else's shoes.
Oh.
Without like
empathy.
Yeah, just really having that, because everybody has their own experience in life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're in the same family, you're having a different experience, and you have different beliefs, and your beliefs create your actions, and that is how it happens. And so when somebody's got something that you might not actually agree with, it doesn't mean you have to hate them for it.
Right.
And I just really think it's about understanding and putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. And I've learned that very deeply in the last year.
Yeah.
Something that I really needed to.
And in the book Pendulum, they talk about, how can you weather what they're doing, what they call it is that we're going through the zenith of a we cycle. So every 40 years we go through a me, and now we're going through the zenith of a we.
A we, interesting.
And the tipping point is typically the most harmonious part of the pendulum swing. But the last time we went through, oh, buddy,
I'll get it on audio.
Yeah, it's a much better absorbed read on audio. Trust me, because it's multiple voices. The author of the book is a gentleman named Roy H. Williams. He wrote a series of books in the '90s called The Wizard of Ads. And his co-writer, I actually texted him last night. I said, when are you in Nashville next? Because I'd love to have you on and really unpack what's going on around us in the world. Because I said the timing couldn't be more perfect from what you guys wrote in the book, 12 years ago, almost 13 years ago. Book came out in 2011 or 2010. But they talked about, hey, yeah, the same thing was talked about in the Generations books. I don't know if you ever heard of those. But Generations came out the mid-'90s, or maybe even the late '80s. And then there was another predecessor, a book that succeeded that book called The Fourth Turning. And they predicted everything back in '97 that we went through in the last 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, and I wish that I was more of a book person. But now that I've got Audible.
Yeah.
And you know what I found out? There's an app that you can get. You can go to the public library.
Yeah.
Sign up for a free card, and then there's an app that you can get that will let you download books for free.
Yeah.
And my brother just showed me that last night, and I'm like, oh.
I know that app. I can't remember the name.
Kirby or something like that.
Something like that, but my kids had it for a spell.
Yeah.
For a season.
And I thought that was pretty cool. But I'm an audio book guy because I'm fidgety. I'm a little ADHD. I've got to be doing something constantly. Yeah. So if I'm doing something and then listening to a book, that's how I'm absorbing it. And I visualize it as I see it, or I'll listen to it while I go to bed, and I'll listen to the same book probably 5 different times.
Yeah,
I go rewind it. I want to learn it and really absorb it and make it an experience in my life.
Especially if it speaks to you.
Yes, especially.
That's what Pendulum did for me. I must have listened to it 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
Pick up something new every time I listen to it.
Oh, yeah. And I've got a whole lot of books on Audible. I haven't gotten to them all yet, but there have been some great ones, and I need to get that.
It's a good history one.
Yeah.
Generations and The Fourth Turning are also nice compliments to it.
All right. Well, we're going to get that list before we get out of here.
So before we get any farther into this thing... This is the nature of the podcast where we ask, what is your problem? So what is your problem if you're having it? What's the one thing kind of keeping you awake these days?
My problem?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I was going to say maybe
I've got
social media or something.
Yeah, I've got too much on my plate. I mean, realistically, I've got the Slick Lawson Foundation I'm trying to do. I'm trying to raise money for that. I've got to buy time to go through all these archives so we can start selling archival prints and special edition prints. Basically, Gomez Photography needs a new website. Westlight Studios needs a website. We're also going to be upgrading. So it's always something, but that's a good problem to have because it gives me something to do.
Yeah.
And
it's productive.
Yeah, and it is productive. It's going to get there. It's not going to be overnight, but I don't really stay up wondering about it. I have this knowing and this faith that whatever happens, God's got this, man.
It'll just work out.
God's got it. Yeah. It's going to work out, and it always has. And I've been through a lot, but God's never really let me down. I could, if my attitude was different, I could probably, at one time was, instead of saying a prayer in the morning, flicking him a bird in the morning. But, God can take that too. But I've learned that it's all going to work out the way it needs to.
That is true.
And that it always has. So why worry about it? Why have a problem?
Has that notion become an easier pill to swallow as we get older?
You still have to catch you do. It is, but you have to catch yourself in that moment of that doubt and that negative self-talk where you're just like, no, what are you thinking that for? Just why would you,
Yeah.
It's all going to be fine. And even if it wasn't fine, like, what are you going to do about it anyway?
You got to see it as not everything is going to be sunshine and roses and unicorns, man. You got to go through the valleys to appreciate the mountaintops. That's what I tell my kids.
That's true. It's all an experience.
Yeah. I teach my kids self-awareness. I said, I don't care if you go to college. I want you to be self-aware. Your 20s, your early 20s, mid-20s, maybe even late 20s are for you to find out who you are and to fall on your face. It's okay to fail.
Yeah.
Understand that if you do pursue something, it's going to take some time to get off the ground.
Yeah.
It's going to need some runway.
Yeah. Everybody wants it tomorrow. Everybody wants it right away.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
In your mentoring the youth, the next generation, do they all have that kind of, well, I want it now?
Yeah, they they want it now. A lot of people.
Was that that for us though? I mean, did we have a better understanding of how long it takes? I always say there's the magic number is like 5 years to really start.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, it is. But I felt like I started late.
Right.
I went to college for a recording industry program and I ended up bartending. I was trying to book a band at the Exit Inn.
You're finding yourself. That's all.
And that's all life is in general. I mean, we're always trying to discover yourself and what you are so that you can find that purpose and really make life mean something.
Yeah.
And I think the more that we do love ourselves, the more we're able to love somebody else. I mean, so in finding yourself, you've also got to like yourself too. And I think that's important. And I think business is business, but the business of the soul is really what's at hand. What's the real thing? And so I guess I just don't have a problem because I've met my soul.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up kind of a force-fed Catholic, but threw that out the door and said, God, show up like a burning bush or forget it, deal's done.
Right.
Well, I got my burning bush.
Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, and sometimes, let me say, to be able to recognize God, you got to be on your knees to do it. So, and you'll get there. But it's still, I wouldn't give anything for that experience.
There was
and then to know after that,
one way or another, we're going to find out.
Yeah.
And that's and that's why I always say with people who are atheists or agnostic, and I was a huge fan of George Carlin growing up, and he was very
still am though.
And he would talk about God and religion and everything, and he wasn't really bought into it, and when he died, I'm like, well, he found out one way or the other. I mean, that's the hard truth of it. Either it's nothing or it's real.
Right, and it's I lost my thought for half a second there, but what you look for, what you seek, you'll find. If you're seeking to not believe, you'll find proof of that, and if you're seeking to believe, you'll find proof of that too. It's really what you are looking for. But nobody can tell you what, if you've never had peanut or peanut butter in your life, nobody can tell you what it tastes like until they actually put it into their mouth and taste it.
Proving the existence of God is like proving that you love somebody.
Yeah.
How do you prove that there's air out there? It's just,
Right.
you can breathe it, you can feel it, but how do I really prove it to you or describe it to you?
No, but when it hits you over the head and or it hits you in the heart, and it's really good. So I've been able to have that, and I still have to re-experience it as much as I can every day. But it's important, and it's not like it doesn't have to really to do with a particular religion as much as it is just, hey, okay, I get it, I understand, and it's something that's even hard to explain, but it helps me out these days a lot. I've just kind of got a little calmness about what's going on in my life and the world in general, and it might be in chaos. It's like the REM song, it's the end of the world as we know it, but
I feel fine.
I feel fine, and I think it's all a state of mind, and I just want to try to have that state of mind.
That's like the and not like I'm not guilty of getting harried or up in arms about life, but every now and then you got to remind yourself, okay, getting anxious or stressing out over something or having worry, what's it really doing for you?
Right.
Is it adding to your life or taking away?
Yeah.
And same thing for people who decide to. There was one person in particular on one of the Spring Hill pages. She's just very argumentative and likes to get into these long comment strings, and it's just back and forth. Nobody's convincing anybody of their side.
Oh, I was there at one time.
Yeah, and it's like, and I finally I think I was face to face with her one time, and I said, "What do you get out of that?" And I said, "I'm not trying to be a smartass. I'm just genuine. I'm just curious. What is it that you get?" Well, it's just like, I'm not gonna. I think it changes minds. I'm like, I disagree with you. I don't think you're changing anybody's mind, but other than the fact of how they think of you, that's the mind you're changing.
Mostly that's depending on how you present that.
She really didn't have an answer.
But yeah.
I said, is this about pride? Is it about you feeling like you're right? Or, did you have a chip on your shoulder from high school that you weren't the highest performing student, but all of a sudden you blossomed and now you got a little bit of intellect and history and things wisdom that you'd like to share with people? I completely get that. I was that person, but I'm also of the wisdom that I'm not going to affect anybody on social media in a positive way by arguing with them.
No, I think the only thing, like Mother Teresa said, you can do is you don't have to love the world, but you just have to love the person next to you, and that's kind of where I like to be.
And that needs to happen a lot more, and I assure you it will.
Yeah.
As we get past this, 2023 is going to look like 1943 all over again. That's what is said in that Pendulum book. So
who knows what it's going to look like, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to be fearful.
Nothing you can do about it.
I'm not going to be fearful.
The problems are a lot bigger than what we can do about it. And only God can handle that.
Yeah, and He will.
It's been written, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, we'll wrap things up. How do people find and follow you? You're getting into the social media game.
All right, here we go.
A landing page?
I do have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. But, on Instagram, usually, Westlight Studios.
Yeah.
On Instagram, Michael Gomez Photography on the other Instagram. But westlightstudios.com is our website for the studio, and gomezphotography.com is the website for Gomez Photography. And slicklawsonfoundation.org is the one that we're building right now for the nonprofit.
You need to come to my BNI and promote that, push that for me.
One of these days, we're working on a lot of things.
Yeah.
We're what we want to do is we want to get a grant. A big grant. I've been working with a high school down in Huntsville for 12 and a half years, and we want to go to all the underprivileged high schools and help them build up their photography and video programs and find out which kids really are wanting to go and do their thing and give them scholarships and have some fun.
I'd love to get into, if podcasting ever becomes a part of that, let me know.
Well,
I'm more than happy to
I will
get in the mix.
But I think just getting out there, I think there could be a really cool podcast on that kind of subject, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, just what we need to do is definitely step up on our game as far as the social stuff, because unfortunately, that's the way the world works these days, and somewhat.
And that's the thing is, in a photography sense, Instagram is the obvious thing to go to.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, it's yeah,
I mean,
and if you use it right, or if you have somebody, you know, there's different ways. I've just got to learn how to use it more effectively.
Yeah. And there's plenty of teachers out there, plenty of tutorials,
And there's interns that know too. I've got actually a great intern, Holly from MTSU, and she's come in and she's like, I don't know if I want to be a photographer. I do, but I want to do my stuff, but I want to maybe manage a studio. And she's teaching me some stuff.
Good.
And she's great. So it's like, hey, Holly.
these, I mean, what we knew as rock stars back in our time of coming up is a lot different these days.
Yeah.
It's YouTube stars and TikTok stars, and
Yeah.
who would have thunk it, man?
I mean, you never know, I guess, but everybody's got their own little platform, and I guess it's making everybody a little narcissist or something. I'm not sure, but it's kind of still.
There's a bit of biblical prophecy playing out right now. I mean, men will be lovers of themselves. I mean, there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's okay to love yourself, but you know, narcissism's a whole nother game.
Oh yeah, if you think you're the be all end all answer to things, for sure.
Yeah, that's where narcissism gets really wrong, is when you expect the rest of the world to believe exactly like you, and that's not fun.
That's
everybody's different.
Being an ideologue.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
get a lot of that these days.
Yeah.
If you don't think the way I do, then you're the enemy.
Right.
Well, there you go. All the links will be in the description, and you can follow along. I certainly suggest you do. If you like the episode, please share it out. Share, subscribe, rate, and review the Big Four. Again, going for 10,000 average downloads per episode. I'll admit we've got a long way to go, but that's okay. If it goes into 2024 and we're still shooting for 10,000, that's what it takes. These things take a while. So again, please follow along, what'syourproblempodcast.com. And of course, thank you to my guest, Mr. Michael Gomez.
Thank you
yes, sir.
so much for asking me to do this. I mean, wow, it's an honor.
Right on, buddy.